Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
I'm Steve Higgins.
I'm Christine Panton.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Yes, it is. I suppose it's the legacy of someone else's Golden Age characters at this point, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, grandfathered in.
Yeah. Listeners, this week, you'll probably be astonished to learn that we're doing issue 1 of Freedom Fighters. That, of course, follows last week's omnibus repeat of issues 107 and 108 of Just League of America, when the quality characters were brought into the DC universe and made into a team. And it was nice to revisit that one, wasn't it, Peter?
It most certainly was, and thank you again to all the guests who helped us out with that amazing two-parter.
Yes.
You went above and beyond, people. You were amazing. So it's a good way to showcase their talents, and the links to all of their podcasts are on the show notes for that episode, so please check them out.
Yes, please do, please do. So, issue 1 of the Freedom Fighters, popping up a couple of years after they turned up in JLA, published on the 9th of December 1975, 3 days before the 4th birthday of menswear frontman Johnny Dean.
Gasp!
Peter will now tell us about the cover.
We have the cigar band at the top. We have Uncle Sam in the top left corner, a small Freedom Fighters logo, the line of DC superstars. Then we have a small roll call for the actual team, which is Black Condor,
Uncle Sam,
the Ray,
Doll Man,
the Human Bomb,
Phantom Lady.
Then we have a lovely red, white and blue Freedom Fighters logo. The main image in the cover is a dark background. We have our heroes in a spotlight.
Gosh.
It looks like the police are after them, because they're surrounded by cops with rifles. My goodness. One of the cops is shouting,
"Hold it, heroes! You're under arrest!"
And, as I said, the aforementioned Freedom Fighters are all in this spotlight. Black Condor is hovering above them. Uncle Sam is holding back the Human Bomb, who is one of his gloves off, and he's got explosive energy with Kirby Crackle all around his fist. The Doll Man is underneath them. And at the rear, we have Phantom Lady and the Ray. Phantom Lady poised with her fist up, looking out to the left. And the Ray also grimacing, it looks like, with his left fist up, looking out to the right. First DC issue, says the banner. Wonderful.
And there's a very, very discreet little marking next to the Human Bomb's foot, which tells us this cover was brought to us by Ernie Chan, so that's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle. Nice pristine copy I have here. I think Mr. Root brought me this one back from the States. Is this now the second time I've read it in 32 years? Possibly. When did you first get a copy of Freedom Fighters issue 1, Peter?
Issue 1? I don't remember. No, I'm not entirely sure. It certainly was in the 80s anyway.
Right, okay. Long ago as that. Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. So, the Freedom Fighters, last seen, tail end of JLA 108. What happens next? Well, this is what happens next. We open the story. A tiny caption reads,
"Presenting the triumphant return of the most valiant defenders of liberty on this or any other Earth. The Freedom Fighters."
Which is pretty much as close as we get to a story title for this episode. So this opening image shows the members of the team, Uncle Sam, Black Condor, Phantom Lady, Human Bomb, Doll Man and the Ray, dropping to the ground seemingly out of thin air. And as they're all about to alight, Uncle Sam says,
"Here we are, troop. New York City, I think."
And Black Condor replies, "And I think you're right, Uncle Sam. It looks pretty much like the Manhattan of our world, except without all the ruins left behind by the Nazis." Now, they're not arriving in a quiet, secluded spot. Far from it. They're in the heart of New York City. Crowds of people standing around watching them arrive. You can see a nice yellow taxi cab. There's an ice cream seller. There's a lady in a fur coat with a small dog. Lots of people standing there looking surprised. There's a young man in a sort of blue suit with a nice sort of string tie. He's got his arm around a young blonde girl. And as he looks at all the heroes arriving, he says,
"Look, Becky, it's street theatre."
And this prompts the ice cream salesman to say, "What you talking, bozo? Don't you know superheroes when you see 'em?" Then the captioning resumes.
"Times Square, crossroads of the world, and what better place on our Earth for the Freedom Fighters to appear, as if out of nowhere. But, in case you're wondering just where nowhere is, and are curious about who our heroes are, hang loose. This is only page 1, remember?"
Then we get boxed with the credits for the issue.
Brought to you by Martin Pascoe, script, Rick Estrada, layouts, Mike Royer, lettering and finished art. Jerry Conway, plot and editing.
Interesting. Mike Royer and Jerry Conway certainly earning their wages at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
First panel of page 2, the heroes are standing in the heart of Times Square and they're looking around, trying to take everything all in. The Ray says, "Hey, Black Condor, this place is called Fun City, right?" "Right," Ray continues. "Funny, it doesn't look like much fun." Dollman, standing on the human bomb's helmet, says,
"Maybe not, Ray, but it does look like a place where we'll be useful."
Phantom Lady's turn to speak now. She says,
"Look at all the people staring. You'd think they'd never seen us before."
and amongst the crowd, we can see a young woman in a pink dress who seems to have fainted and been caught with the chap that she's with. And there's an older man with a hat, white hair, white moustache. He's there with a woman. And this chap says,
"Esther, the tour guide didn't say nothing about this."
"Shut up, Marvin, and let me faint in peace." Uncle Sam then gets a dynamic close-up to reply to Phantom Lady as he says,
They haven't seen us before, Phantom Lady. You gotta remember, these parts may look mighty familiar, but they sure aren't Earth X.
and a little asterisk takes us to a caption which reads,
A parallel world first seen in JLA 107. Jerry. And for more information on that, check out our omnibus repeats that we put out last week.
Amazing. Yes, we got a week off from the recording listeners. It was blessed. A little boy steps forward and says to Uncle Sam in the next panel,
"Hey, baby, them's funky threads."
Why, thanks, little fella.
You really who you look like?
Yes, sirree, sonny.
You jabbing me?
Nope, honest Injun. I'm Uncle Sam.
Far out.
This is cool because Sam pats a little boy on the head, which is lovely. The heroes are then seen in silhouette in the next panel as the human bomb says,
Hey, look, police with their guns drawn. What kind of welcome is that?
to which Phantom Lady says,
A very cautious one, Bomb. After all, we have sort of popped out of thin air, you know.
yes, we see a few policemen with their guns pulled already, goodness me, rushing towards the heroes, but then a caption reads,
Suddenly, all eyes are wrenched southward as the night skyline bursts with crimson.
yes, there's a massive... The heroes all turn, we see a massive explosion in the distance, and indeed, Phantom Lady confirms this when she exclaims,
What? An explosion?
And even before the sound of the blast has faded, the super sextet is on its way.
Yep, Sam, Phantom Lady, and Human Bomb all start running off. Sam holding hands with Phantom Lady and Human Bomb, which is quite charming. Dollman perched on Black Condor's shoulder, and the Ray streaking away as one mustachioed policeman nearby yells,
Hey, you guys, hold it!
Later, officer, later. We've got work to do, says the Ray. Great shot of Uncle Sam leaping into the air, holding on to Human Bomb and Phantom Lady in panel 2, as Human Bomb says,
Sheesh. 5 minutes we're here and already we're in action.
You bragging or complaining, son?
Knowing the human bomb, Uncle Sam, I'd say both.
Meanwhile, black bilious smoke obscures the red-hued sky over 14th Street, where a Con Edison power plant is under siege.
yes, see the power station, clearly labelled, has a few windows panned in, and there's a weird sort of silver aeroplane helicopter combo vehicle floating in the air nearby. The sky's bright red, as the caption says. It's all very crisis. Maybe this is when this is taking place. Who can say? And leaping out of a hatchway in the side of the vehicle are 3 uniformed men. Tight-fitting outfits, boots, trunks, gloves, sort of masks. They kind of look, to my eyes, very much like the Mirror Master, but only if you had green crayons, because that's the way they've been coloured in. They're jumping out of this hatchway in the side of the weird air vehicle and leaping in through a hole in the side of the power station. From inside the overhead aeroplane, a voice can be heard saying,
Quickly, gentlemen. This operation should take exactly 4 minutes, 15 seconds. For in 5 minutes, by my estimation, the police will arrive.
and this line is being said by the man we see inside the flying vehicle. He's dressed completely in silver, head to toe, but has a clear visor covering his eyes and his nose, and he's yelling into a microphone as he continues.
The cops will let a mugging victim bleed in the street, but when it's the power company, they're Johnny on the spot.
And, speaking of Johnny's on the spot,
Black Condor and Dollman have arrived. They fly down towards a couple of the green-suited goons, with Condor saying, I heard your boss man's little sermon, creeps, and let me tell you, where I come from, I've had my belly full of evil that hides behind a mask of righteous outrage. And with a
Kapow!
Condor strikes one of the goons, and with a
Pow!
Dollman leaps from his shoulder and punches one of the other goons. Condor keeps flinging punches in the first panel of page 4 as he says, You may not be as bad as the Nazis who once controlled Earth X, but you're criminals, and that's good enough for the Black Condor. Condor seems to sense one of the goons bearing down on him from behind. He leaps into the air, vaults and somersaults backwards before landing on the guy's back with a
BAM!
saying, "See what I mean?"
And even as the former Senator Tom Wright speaks, his tiny compatriot, known as Dollman, is proving his words doubly truthful.
Yeah, we see Dollman getting stuck in, knocking out... How many of these goons are there? We see him leaping in with a...
Pow!
and a...
Clud!
He takes a few of them out.
While riding on the light beam of a street lamp, the Ray arrives on the scene to hear...
Yes, we see Ray flying up as the chap in silver also leaps out of the hatchway in the side of the weird flying vehicle, saying...
Costumed lawman. An unforeseen complication. It seems the Silver Ghost will have to take a personal hand in this.
Yes, this is the Silver Ghost. This is what we'll call him. He lands on the ground in the next panel, but then he ducks because, well...
What? That thing, like a bolt of lightning, flying in a ray of light. Barely ducked in time.
That's because the Ray has gone flying past him to take his fists to some more of the Silver Ghost's goons, with the Ray saying, "You were lucky, Bunky, but that's okay. I'll get you on the return trip." There's a nice
Zip.
sound effect as the Ray flies towards the power station in the first panel of page 5, saying, "Hey, you in there! Remind me to thank you for blowing that hole in the wall. It's letting out enough travelling light from inside to enable me to make an entrance, and to make you wish you hadn't been so Oh! But he's cut off. As the Ray flies in the gap in the wall of the power station, he's struck by a huge hulk of a man. It's the only way I can put it. Wearing a sort of blue tunic, a golden belt, red leggings, blue boots, and a red helmet. He kind of looks very much like a combination of a few members of the Wreckers wrecking crew from off of the Marvel comics, don't you think?
It certainly does, absolutely.
And as the Ray has flown in and been pulled up with a
Puck.
sound effect, it's because this large guy in red and blue has punched him, saying, "Eat knuckles, hero! Ha ha!" And this sends the Ray flying, as the guy in blue and red continues, saying, "You got a smart mouth, fella. King Samson don't like no smart mouth." Oh my goodness. The Ray goes flying as we see some of the Silver Ghost's goons appear to be using some kind of cutting tool to cut into some of the equipment and machinery.
While outside...
The Human Bomb, Uncle Sam and Phantom Lady arrive on the scene, alighting in front of the Silver Ghost, who's brandishing his hands in a very scary fashion with a weird light coming off them. Human Bomb says,
Seems like we found the dude behind all this, gang. And look at his hands.
"Yeah, the hands are glowing." As the Silver Ghost says,
Blasted meddlers, you've upset my entire timetable. And for that, the Silver Ghost will have his revenge.
and he leaps forward to try and grab at Phantom Lady, it seems. But Phantom Lady, well, it doesn't quite work out that way. The Silver Ghost exclaims,
Hey!
and Phantom Lady says,
Huh?
Your body vanishing!
yeah, and she seems to be growing translucent as the Silver Ghost, with his hands still glowing and stretched out, falls right through her. This prompts Phantom Lady to say,
I'm becoming some sort of phantom.
Astonishment! The Phantom Lady is no less surprised than her opponent when she becomes a wraith, using a power she never knew she had, causing the Silver Ghost to pass through her and collide with one of his own henchmen.
there is a bzzz sound effect as the Silver Ghost's hand touches his goon, who then yells. And there's a weird spiky blue glow all around him.
All stare in mute horror as the silver-garbed criminal's touch triggers an incredible transformation. As shrieking in agony, the terrified henchman turns to solid silver.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Phantom Lady looking on in horror in the background as the blue glow continues to surround the goon, who then ends up on his knees with his hands held up in front of him, begging the Silver Ghost to stop what's happening. The Silver Ghost can only look on. He turns to the heroes and says,
One of my best men destroyed. That's something else I owe you, woman.
this prompts the Human Bomb to say,
Not so fast, creep. You're not the only one with a set of fancy fingertips.
and we see him using his left gloved hand to pull off the glove on his right hand, which he holds out in front of him, saying,
You see, they call me the Human Bomb. A few years back I swallowed a chemical formula so the rat seeds couldn't get it. Only, it did this number in my hands. Ah, heck, it'd be a lot simpler just to show you.
The bomb dives, but the ghost dodges lithely, and...
the bomb has leapt forward, but the ghost gets out of the way as the bomb's hand instead strikes a post which has traffic lights at the top of it and other signage. We can also see a US mail box go flying as there is a massive kaboom. Gosh, very exciting. Uncle Sam whirls at this point, saying,
Tarnation! Bomb, you hot-headed young whippersnapper! You could have killed that fella. But he's safe, and making a beeline for his ship. Go after him, but keep your gloves on. Me and the others'll... What's that noise?
That's a brilliant bit of dialogue covering all sorts of... I probably saved about a page worth of illustration, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The noise is a little sound effect which we see coming from the direction of the power station. Uncle Sam looks at it and says,
A gall-darn steam pipe ruptured by the explosion.
He leaps through the hole in the side of the power station. We can see King Samson, the guy in red and blue, and some of the Silver Ghost goons still working away in the background. They seem to be connecting some sort of nozzle or hose up to something. As Sam leaps towards the damaged pipe, saying,
A broken pipe don't look like much, but hot steam is deadly, and I know it's going to take all the strength of old red, white, and blue to tame it.
Prophetic words indeed, for, as if to challenge them, a torrent of hissing steam gushes forth, declaring war on Uncle Sam. But the man who embodies the spirit of America proves equal to the challenge. He pushes on, resisting the unyielding jet of scalding vapor, until his powerfully sinewed hands clutch the ends of the broken pipe, and, with a mighty effort, fuse them together.
We don't really need those captions, listeners, to be honest, because the artwork tells the story for us. We see that all happening. Sam turns to one of his colleagues and says,
Hey, Ray, what
happened to me? I'm not sure. Unless they're making pile drivers with legs these days.
You're talking riddles, Mr. Terrell.
Some freaking monstrosity hit me, you senile old coot. That's what happened.
Okay, don't get all riled up. We better hightail it outside, see how the others are doing.
Outside, we see that King Samson and some of the goons are taking the hose that they'd connected to the equipment in the power station and are leading it towards the Silver Ghost's flying ship. We see Black Condor and Dollman in combat with one of the Silver Ghost goons, and we see Phantom Lady kicking a pistol out of the hand of one of the other goons as she says,
Hope you don't mind, sir, but guns make me nervous. In fact, almost as nervous as you're gonna be when my black light ray makes you as blind as the proverbial bat.
Yeah, and she activates the device on her wrist, and a beam of solid black shoots from it and envelops King Samson and the Silver Ghost and presumably the goons. Silver Ghost says,
Hey, we can't see.
I can see that, turkey. I mean, Mama!
Unfortunately, just then, the Condor swoops in for the kill.
Yeah, we see Black Condor flying in from above, but it seems more luck by design, I think, to my eyes. King Samson, who we can see here has a beard, I hadn't noticed before, lashes out with his left hand, which strikes the Condor. The captioning resumes.
And if you think his timing leaves a bit to be desired, right now we think he'd agree with you.
Gosh. Top of page 9. Everyone can catch their breath for a moment.
Minutes later, after the Ghost's flyer has made its escape,
We see the heroes come together, Black Condor getting to his feet, Sam leading the Ray out from the hole in the power station, Dollman perched on Human Bomb's shoulder, as Phantom Lady says,
Gee, guys, I'm sorry. Whoever they are, they got away. But at least my black light kept them from putting up much of a fight.
Black Condor gets to his feet saying, I got a throbbing skull that would take issue with you there, Phantom Lady. How many times do we have to tell you? That gizmo is just dandy for one-to-one fights, but in a crowd scene, forget it.
But...
Human Bomb cuts them off saying,
Hey, you bozos, cool it. Bad enough she was confused by a new power developing like magic without you jumping over, and...
Quiet, Bomb, because it's now the Ray's turn to interrupt. The police are here, and he points. We see a whole fleet of police cars arriving. As the Ray continues, Wonder what took him so long. Condor says they were probably tied up with a mugging victim bleeding in the street.
What's that supposed to mean, Tom?
Never mind.
Just don't go knocking the law, son. They do the best job they can.
and part of that job, unfortunately, is arresting the Super Six for creating a public disturbance in Times Square and bringing them before a district attorney named David Pearson.
Listeners, I went to school with someone called David Pearson, so I found this absolutely hilarious. I haven't seen him in over 35 years. I've no idea what he even looks like now. He could even look like this character. If I was still in touch with him, you're damn right I would have got in touch and asked him to voice himself, but not to worry. Yes, we see a nice, very official-looking building with many steps and columns to set the scene. Rather than starting inside and jumping outside, they show the building first, which helps me no end. Police car parked outside and a voice coming from a window.
Never let it be said that New York City is inhospitable to costumed heroes. After all, we do tolerate Wonder Woman, don't we? But 6 more, and from another world yet. Let's be reasonable.
And we see David Pearson. He's an older man, white hair, white frame glasses, white moustache, wearing a green suit, and a lovely bow tie. The heroes are all arranged in front of him. Phantom Lady sat down, Sam standing behind her, the lad's over to the left as we look at it. David Pearson, sorry, it's always going to make me laugh. David Pearson continues.
And surely that escapade at the power station doesn't speak very highly for your efficiency.
Sam replies saying,
Mr. Pearson, sir, we understand you can't trust us just yet, but we can be of help, and, we're not from another world. Not exactly.
And then we're continued in a few pages following, past a full-page advert for tabloids, another full-page advert for Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man. Yes, it's coming. Another Justice for All includes children full-page by Neil Adams to arrive at the top of page 10, as David Pearson says.
No? Where then? Another dimension? The way you're dressed, I'll believe anything.
You're getting warmer, sir. As a matter of fact, it's a long story.
We get a nice, round-edged flashback panel here, and we see the image of Uncle Sam that's on the cigar band on the cover. This is where it came from. Sam narrates a resplendent panel of the freedom fighters standing on a raised sort of platform being celebrated by the crowds in front of them.
We call ourselves the Freedom Fighters, but don't worry, we fight for freedom, not against it. We're from Earth X, which is what you call your parallel world. It's a lot like your Earth, except that there, Nazi Germany won World War II. 2 years ago, we finally beat the tar out of them ratsies and got our country back.
And a little asterisk again takes us to a caption that reads,
JLA 108, or last week's episode.
Yes, we see, as I said, the heroes on a nice little raised banner, and there's a cheering, happy crowd in front of them who are all yelling,
Hooray for the Freedom Fighters!
Sam's remembrances resume.
That's when our troubles began. Me, you already know, Uncle Sam. There's some folks as call me the Spirit of Liberty, but I'll let you make up your own mind about that.
And we then get some nice hero headshots of the other 5 members of the team as Sam introduces them all to David Pearson.
Then there's Roy Lincoln. When he swallowed that Formula 27QXR, it concentrated in his hands, changing him into the human bomb. And Sandra Knight, the daughter of a crusading senator. You can be sure he's mighty proud of her, the way she's following his example, crusading as the Phantom Lady. The little fellow's Daryl Dare, a.k.a. Doll Man. He's really a 6-footer, but he can shrink to 6 inches through sheer willpower. The kid with the smile is Happy Terrell. He was a newspaper reporter when he got caught in a cosmic storm and came out of it with the power to travel on beams of light. Folks call him the Ray. Last but not least, the Black Condor. He's a mutant, a biological oddity with a natural power of flight. He was a senator back on Earth X named Tom Wright, but that was before we won the war.
Top of page 11 now, there's a sort of smaller inset panel of the heroes sitting around looking a little fed up. Dollman is even throwing a paper plane, as Sam's narration resumes.
Almost immediately the wheels of democracy began to turn once more, but they hummed right along without us. With liberty restored, we had nothing to fight for anymore, and frankly, we were bored. But we'd heard about your Earth from the JLA, and so with the help of a teleporter developed by a scientist friend...
Yes, we don't get the name of the scientist friend, but we see him in the next panel. God, he looks mad. He's wearing a white lab coat, his wild white hair and a thick white beard, and he's wearing extraordinary goggles that we only see from the side. And the heroes are all standing in what looks like a massive big jar with a sort of lid on the top, but electrodes connected and yellow electricity arcing all over the place. Hopefully this will make it onto the socials. From inside this jar, Tollman, standing on Uncle Sam's shoulder, waves and says,
Okay, Prof, let her rip.
And Phantom Lady says,
Bon voyage, Professor, and thanks ever so much.
And as he operates a lever, the Professor says,
Good luck, folks.
Peter, I've got a suggestion for our next DC comic that we're going to write.
What would that be?
I think it's going to be tell us who this professor is.
I think it's the Earth X version of Tio Moro. Or perhaps, given the fact they've only just recently got rid of the Nazi occupation, I bet his surname's Von Braun.
Possibly. Sam's narration resumes.
We arrived in Times Square, and realized right away that your Earth's not too much different than ours. Shucks, I guess people are alike all over.
Yes, and we get a nice little flashback to the opening splash image of the heroes dropping down from the sky to the amazement of everyone in Times Square. Back in the room, we see the human bomb pointing at David Pearson and saying,
So, what are you telling us, Pearson? That we're not good enough for the Big Apple? What do we have to do, show you our press clippings?
Don't push it, mister. I don't want to be unkind, but it did take your people almost 30 years longer to crush the Nazis than us.
But our Nazis made yours look like Boy Scouts. Oh, this is silly. Please let us stay here.
And at this, we see David Pearson lighting a cigar with a match as he says,
All right. Besides, I can't exactly deport you, can I?
Phantom Lady softens. She relaxes a bit and leans forward saying,
Thank you, sir. And you know something? For, plump person, you're really kind of cute.
and there's a lovely sound effect as Sandy plants one on the cheek of a very flustered David Pearson, who lets the cigar fall from his mouth in astonishment. We then arrive at the top of page 12, and guess what? Yes, you're right, there's a caption.
And now that Fun City's DA has met the freedom fighters, we turn our attention to a once magnificent mansion in Washington Heights, where an unpleasant discussion is in progress.
It's a very fancy-looking building. Nice arrangement of windows along the top of this sort of tower in the middle of it all. Will we see it properly again? Who can say? We're inside. It's a very fancy-looking office. An expensive-looking black desk with a man with curly silver hair sat behind it, gesticulating to a crowd of goons. Standing behind him is a large muscly fellow who has a hint of a beard. This guy with the silver hair is wearing a green suit, and he's waving his arms in the air as he says,
Don't tell me my instructions were too complicated. The way you blithering idiots acted, directions of boiling water would confuse you.
But boss, says one of the goons, we weren't expecting no superpowered freaks.
That's an excuse.
He points at a painting on the wall, which shows a very thin-faced, grumpy-looking, silver-haired person as he continues.
As my ancestor, Lewin Van Zandt, would have said, a Van Sant prepares himself for any contingency.
He walks towards the goon who just spoke to him, saying,
Do you think the Van Sants of New Amsterdam got to be the original owners of Manhattan Island by being foul-ups? Imbecile!
He cries as he slaps the goon who answered him back. He looks furious in the next panel as he yells,
Let New York turn 1,000,000 costumed flunkies against me. None will stop Raphael Van Sant from reclaiming the Rock, for none can stop the Silver Ghost.
Gosh! Write that down in your jotters, everyone. This seems to be the Silver Ghost, and his real name seems to be Raphael Van Zandt. Okay. We get a genuine slow dissolve.
Next day, the afternoon sun sends lazy shadows over the ancient brick walls of an East Side armory building, where...
The East Side armory building basically looks like a very sort of straightforward, simple sort of castle structure. We see David Pearson, still wearing the same gear he had earlier on, standing with a bunch of other people in civilian clothes. There's one chap with red hair with his arms folded behind his back, another man in a suit with silver hair, chap with dark hair with his arms folded in a sort of petrol green suit. There's another guy, dark hair in a brown suit. There's a dark-haired lady with her hair in a ponytail wearing a sort of white vest top and tight purple trousers. And then to the right, with an overcoat and a hat over his asbestos suit, it's the human bomb. My goodness, how Fantastic Four. Underneath this gorgeously rendered sun, look at that, did a 5-year-old draw it? David Pearson gestures up to the armory building and says to the assembled people,
Voila! Your new headquarters. I admit it's a bit weather-beaten, but it's the best we can do.
First panel of page 13, we get a front view of everyone, and we realise that this is the freedom fighters in their civvies, if we didn't realise already. David Pearson, who sat next to me in science in second year, says,
The whole place is yours to use just as the JLA uses their satellites. You can even live here until you make other arrangements.
Phantom Lady, aka Sandra Knight, puts her hands up to her face and says,
Live here? You must be joking. I'd have to spend a year just cleaning first. When would I find time for crime fighting?
Yeah, Phantom Lady says this because they've gone inside now, actually, we realise, and we can see cobwebs and bats. Actual bats flying around. In the background, we see Dollman and Black Condor looking as if they're sharing a laugh. And in the foreground, still wearing his hat and coat, the human bomb says,
If you're lucky, maybe you'll find a mob of killer dust motes, and you can do both at the same time.
Very funny, says the Ray, aka Happy Terrell, who then crosses to Phantom Lady in the next panel. He takes her arm in his hand, saying, It's not too bad, Sandy. I mean, sure, it's the pits now, but it won't take long to fix it up. Not with me helping. Besides, It's big enough so that we can be alone. Alone together, if you get my meaning.
I think I do, Happy, darling.
And we see them both in silhouette as we get a close-up of... It's kind of hard to read the human bomb's expression through his visor and his hat as he thinks...
Darling. Oh, cripes.
There's another of our patented slow dissolves.
Some hours later, at a Bell telephone switching station in Midtown Manhattan,
We see the Silver Ghost's weird combination helicopter, submarine, aeroplane, shield, helicarrier. Parked on a street, there is a rope ladder hanging from the hatchway, and the Silver Ghost and King Samson have clearly descended and walked towards this Bell telephone switching station. There's a couple of guards outside. One of them is being punched out by King Samson, as Silver Ghost says,
See how much easier it is for just the two of us, Samson. Without my moronic assistance, nothing can stop Operation Fear City.
Right, boss. Is this the part where you turn these guards into hunks of silver? And in the first panel of page 14, one of the guards has managed to pull a pistol, which he fires with a bang, as he says,
Not if I can help it, gorilla.
but he's too late because in the next panel, the Silver Ghost gestures there is that now familiar crackle of blue energy, as he says,
Ah, but officer, you can't.
and the poor officer is enveloped in the blue energy and he turns into solid silver.
nor can the helpless security guards prevent the brutish King Samson from bursting through a steel-reinforced door as easily as drawing a breath.
Caption saves me a lot of hassle, but there is a nice massive crash sound effect as King Samson makes his entrance.
With no greater exertion, the plundering pair swat a detail of guards from their path as if they were mere insects.
Yeah, they're walking further into the telephone exchange. You see Samson slapping one guy out of his way as the Silver Ghost punches another chap. We don't see if he's turned him into silver, hopefully not. Nearby, a workman in overalls and a hat carrying a spanner sees all this and yells, Holy Hannah! It's that silver guy we heard about on the news! And there's a quick dissolve.
While in the office of New York University's Dean of Admissions,
We see a chap in a devastating sort of petrol green suit wearing a black shirt and a purple tie, about to sign a piece of paper. Sat behind the desk, a very perky blonde girl with a typewriter beside her. And we hear, or we get this, obviously an indication that there's a bit of a rumpus outside, because this guy in the green suit and the black shirt looks to his left and yells,
Those screams. You'll excuse me, please. Darrell Dane will have to postpone registering for his graduate studies.
and he runs from the room thinking,
At least until after his 6-inch alter ego finds out what's happening down the block. So much for learning this world's science. For now, anyway.
and then this is an exciting bit, listeners, because Dollman's popped up on the show a few times now, and he's going to pop up again before too long outside of the Freedom Fighters. We arrive top of page 15, and a caption reads,
in an empty classroom, a dazzling display of willpower accompanies a startling transformation.
Darrell Dane in his green suit and black shirt. Can you tell I'm impressed by the green suit and the black shirt, listeners? He glows and then starts to shrink down as he says,
Exit, Mr. Dane, and enter Dollman.
wow. It's the first time on the show we've seen Darrell Dane changing into Dollman. That's quite exciting, isn't it, Pete?
Absolutely, yes.
Wow.
Usually it's a cutaway,
Yeah. Brilliant to actually see it. That is definitely going on the socials. In the next panel, we see Dollman leaping through an open window as he continues.
Now to hitch a lift on a cooperative pigeon, if I can find one. Bird riding's not the most reliable method of travel, but then neither is the trolley.
While only a few blocks distant,
Yes, there's a large department store. You can see other people walking up and down the pavement, but leaving it is a dark-haired girl in a ponytail, another dark-haired young man. Appears to be wearing a all-in-one grey boiler suit, but probably not.
He looks like he's wearing Bill Bixby's outfit from The Magician.
Yes. God.
He's double deniming it.
Maybe it is. Yeah, would that series would have finished? They probably would have seen it. Anyway. Yep, this is Sandra Knight and Tom Wright, a.k.a. Phantom Lady and Black Condor. And Sandra is saying,
But I'm still bugged by my new power, Tom. Do you think maybe the teleporter?
scrambled your atoms and somehow caused it? I don't know, Sandy. Not being a scientist, I can't. But then, this is interesting, bit of a narrative leap. We see a couple of little jagged lightning bolts in mid-air, and Tom and Sandra look astonished. And then Tom says, it's the Freedom Fighters' distress signal. Come on, we've got to move. So that's what that was. And the next panel's hilarious. We see them taking their clothes off in the middle of the street, and an old woman wearing a very flowery hat, and she's got thick lipstick and big pearl earrings, standing next to her balding, silver-haired, heavily eyebrowed husband. She yells,
Land's sakes, Edgar! Look! They're stripping! Isn't that streaking fad over?
They got costumes on, Blanche, so they must be two of them new freedom fighters I heard about. And indeed we see that it is Black Condor and Phantom Lady. This is terrible. This whole page is astonishing. As he leaps into the air, as Sandy grabs hold of his arm, Condor says, "Hang on, lady. We're going to track the signal to its source. Pronto."
Meanwhile,
We're back at the telephone exchange with Silver Ghost and King Samson. Silver Ghost, operating some equipment, is saying,
People take their telephones for granted, just like most technological advances. So I cripple the phone service and bring the city to its knees.
suddenly,
a pigeon flies in, bearing Dollman, who leaps off towards King Samson, saying,
Greetings again, Muscle Mind. Remember me?
"Oh, look at boss. It's the squirt who clobbered the boys last night."
Hey, not bad. You'd be a great panelist on What's My Line?
And with that, and both fists stretched out in front of him, Dollman collides with King Samson's head. There's a fantastic "buck" sound effect, which I'll send Kenny a photograph of, because that's obviously the name of the character from the Demons. As King Samson yells, "Yo!" Dollman has another shot at him, saying,
What's that? Speak up. I can't hear you.
and as Samson falls back, as Dollman strikes him again, there's another "puck." Sound Effect City, New Jersey, listeners. Dollman continues.
On second thought, forget it. I know how tough it is to keep up an intelligent conversation when you're busy getting knocked out.
We see in the background that Black Condor and Phantom Lady have arrived as King Samson attempts to punch back. Condor says, "I see we're just in time." As per usual, Dollman's been beating his gums again instead of his opponent. But he breaks off because King Samson has successfully sent Dollman flying with a smack, and then spun and round, and with his left fist has struck Condor. Phantom Lady ducks out of the way, saying,
Look who's talking. Hang in there, Condor.
Phantom Lady moves towards Silver Ghost.
I'll try to take out deadly digits here.
Dollman stretched out on the ground we see as Condor strikes another punch at King Samson, saying, "You do that, lady. Never mind about me, who's trying to deck some dude twice my height and weight." Dollman has managed to recover, and he goes for King Samson's legs, as he says,
He's 4 times mine, Condor, and if I can trounce him, it should be a pipe for you.
"Thanks, chum. I'll remember that," says Condor as he strikes Samson again with a punch, and we see Samson clattering to the ground as Dollman, holding on to his left leg, says,
Condor, you're worse than the bomb. First you're beefing 'cause you get stuck with the dirty work, then you whine when a little guy gives you a hand. Like so.
and King Samson down on the ground. Dollman continues.
He's out cold, see?
"Goody," says Condor.
Sour grapes, that's all I... Good Lord!
"No! No! No!" As the heroes look, Dollman exclaims,
Phantom Lady! She's been changed! To silver!
and our perspective shifts to see Phantom Lady standing, glowing, because she's obviously been struck by Silver Ghost and has now been turned into a solid silver statue. Silver Ghost, standing behind Black Condor and Dollman, says in the next panel,
Indeed she has, and you were about to join her. Your earlier remark about attacking from behind proved most ironic, Black Condor. Phantom Lady tried to, but I was too fast. She didn't even have time to phantom out on me, just as you bird-brained braggart, had no time to fly the coop.
and the Silver Ghost lunges forward with a glow which strikes the Black Condor and Dollman as the ghost continues in the next panel.
You know, Condor, I do think silver is your colour.
Oh my goodness, and that's Condor and Dollman been turned silver as well.
meanwhile, in a now familiar armory,
Yep, nice shot of the armory building from outside. We see the Ray and the human bomb heading down a corridor, and the Ray is saying, "What do you mean you don't know where Sandy is? You were the one who said she went shopping with the Condor. You were the one who said she'd be back an hour ago."
Sorry, Hap.
"Don't be sorry. Just find her. I mean, it's incredible. We leave you in charge for 5 minutes and people disappear right from under your atomic nose." Uncle Sam arrives in the next panel, angrily shaking a fist and saying,
Stow it, Ray. We got trouble. And dagnabbit, it's awful. Simply awful.
What is it, old-timer?"
Better come with me and see for yourself, sonny.
We move outside the armory, in the final panel of the story. See Sam, Bomb and the Ray coming out through a doorway to be greeted. Well, Sam says,
There. That Silver Ghost fella. Look what he done to the Condor and Daryl and...
Sandy!
yells the Bomb, and, "Good dear Lord!" yells the Ray as they are confronted with the sight of their 3 colleagues who've been turned into solid silver. The Silver Ghost is there himself, and he stands with his arms folded, gloating and saying,
Welcome, gentlemen. You really ought to thank me for making a silk purse from a sow's ear. for this little trio was truly a tin-plated troop at best. Ah well, all that matters now is this. If you wish to ever see your friends alive again, you must become my slaves.
And a small caption reads,
Talk about cliffhangers. What next?
and another scroll caption says,
To find out, friend, join us the second week in February for Freedom Fighters Issue 2.
gosh, well,
That was packed of jam, wasn't it?
pure was. I don't think there's much room for anything else because of all the room that the jam was taking up.
That was 18 pages, but you would think it was like a 3-issue miniseries.
Yes. By today's standards, definitely. Before we go any further with the discussion, thank you to Christine for voicing Phantom Lady and our pal Steve Higgins for returning to voice Uncle Sam.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, folks. A pleasure every time.
Yep. Gosh, I mean, you're right. It's packed, isn't it? Absolutely rammed.
Mhm.
So much incident and so much dialogue and description. I liked it, I think. I think I enjoyed it. I know that Steve wasn't too impressed by it.
Oh, really? Oh, shame.
When we sent him his lines, he said, I read it through and it wasn't great. I thought it was fine. It doesn't feel like a DC comic of this period.
Mhm.
It maybe feels like a kind of rush job issue of the Avengers a little bit. I don't know. The pace of the storytelling and the volume of dialogue and incident
Yeah.
is massive. It really is.
Mhm.
There's so much more in this than I think you would get in even a normal comic at this time.
Yeah, they have to fit a lot in, and obviously they have only really been introduced in the Bronze Age in a two-parter. So unless you'd read those issues or listened to our podcast, then you wouldn't know much about these characters. They have to introduce them all individually and what they can do.
Yeah.
And even Sam's introductory page, which he pretty much is exactly the same as the one that he did in the JLA two-parter. You know, even that is just explaining who everyone is. Although we have to point out there was a lettering error, or perhaps a script error in this, because Dollman is introduced in Sam's narration as Darryl Dare, and of course he's Darryl Dane, as is referenced later on in the episode. Unless, of course, Sam's getting a bit senile in his old age and forgot his pal that he's been hanging out with for decades. He might have forgotten his surname.
Yeah, bottom of page 10 if you want to check that one, listeners. That's unfortunate. I always think of this year's Starman when they refer to the Flash as Jay Garrett.
Oh, yes. Oh, dear.
Terrible.
Oh, well.
It's weird because this issue could have just more or less ended at that point, I think, story-wise, because they don't hang about. They introduce the new characters and then they get straight into the first sort of ongoing sort of narrative plot of the Silver Ghost attacking power stations and phone exchanges.
Yeah.
Plus, we get hints of the heroes even starting to try and build new lives for themselves at the same time.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much is packed in. I remember when I read Commandy issue 1 a few months ago, I was astonished at how much was packed into that one, but I think this even beats it.
Yeah, definitely.
The massive amount of setup that gets done, it's really, really impressive.
Especially with the huge cast of characters as well. Because Commandy issue 1, obviously it's following one main character.
Yeah.
Along with the side cast, but still it's one main character, whereas this, it's a proper ensemble cast. It's, what was it, the Super Six they called them?
Yeah. Yeah, because we're introduced to the heroes, but we're also introduced to the Silver Ghost.
Yeah, and King Samson.
And we obviously meet David Pearson.
Yes.
Which, honestly, listeners, is hilarious, because it'd be like, can you think of someone you were pals with in the first few years of high school that give us a name of someone that you knew at school that would amuse you if it popped up?
Let me think. George Smith.
Right. We'll have to watch out, listeners, for George Smith popping up on the podcast.
Yes.
That'd be funny.
Hi, George, if you're listening.
No, I was deeply amused by the appearance of David Pearson. That just really makes me laugh. I hope he's in the rest of the series. We'll have to find out. I like the artwork. It's a little bit, not scrappy, but a little bit unformed at a couple of points.
Yeah, a bit sort of cartoony rushed, some of it, I think. But again, there's an awful lot to fit in.
Yeah.
I think it's more kind of, let's tell the story and don't concentrate on the detail. Let's just go for it for some of the pages.
Yeah.
I'm a bit concerned that Human Bomb is trapped within his costume. Genuinely.
Yes, because let's ask the obvious question. How does he go to the bathroom?
Very carefully is the answer.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Whilst wearing his gloves, I would think.
How does the Human Bombs, if he gets an itchy nostril,
Uh-huh.
the Human Bomb's one of those characters, if you think about it for too long.
I know.
Because we won't make the obvious sort of comments,
Yeah, it must be stinking inside that costume, because imagine you'd just be sweating all the time.
All the time.
Running around in action, yeah.
Something must have been added to it, some sort of filtration or air recycling or body waste recycling. I don't know. Let's leave it there.
I mean, in the Golden Age, she could remove the costume and he was function without it. He wasn't permanently in the costume.
Sure.
But they seem to have forgotten this. Or perhaps this is another development of his powers. Who knows?
Yeah. But I was about to say maybe to make him recognisable in all the group scenes when they're in civvies, but then we're not properly introduced to the Ray with his gear on. The romance between Ray and Phantom Lady, or the hint of a romance, or the hint of something, we need to keep an eye on that for the duration, because there seemed to be a little bit of tension there when Human Bomb either seemed jealous or a bit irritated by it, so we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah. I must admit, I've not read ahead, and I haven't read this in about at least 30 years, I think.
Yeah. I have read ahead very slightly, but only because what we're going to do going forward, listeners, with this series, like we're doing with All-Star Comics and Secret Society Supervillains when we get to it, is we're going to do a couple of issues at a time going forward. They'll be partially summarised, partially enacted, as it were.
Yeah.
I've read ahead very slightly just to kind of prep next week's episode, but I haven't really seen anything about the Ray and Phantom Lady at this point, but I shall keep my eyes peeled and make sure that I note it when we get to them. Silver Ghost, he seems vaguely familiar. I'm sure that I might have read... Did he pop up again somewhere else, or am I confusing him with someone else?
He turns up at the end of Secret Society Supervillains.
That's probably what it is then.
So yeah, I can't remember any other appearances of him offhand, but this is his first appearance.
Sure.
Here.
I hope we get an explanation as to what he's doing with everything at these public... Because they seem to be siphoning off some of the electricity at the power station, but we didn't see what they did with it. And obviously he's a bit more explicit about causing havoc at the phone exchange and causing disruption to the city. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more depth to his motivations going forward. We'll have to see.
And what was the name of his operation again? It was... Oh yeah. Operation Fear City. Yes.
Interesting. We can make the obvious joke that Operation Fear City sound like the sort of band that might have supported another band at a gig somewhere at one point, or something other thing.
I think it sounds more like a concept album for Queensryche or something like that.
Probably. Listeners, do you think that sounds like a concept album for Queensryche? Do you know anything about Queensryche? Write into the r2podcast@gmail.com and let us know. It was quite interesting, the amount of captioning, telling the story, dialogue telling the story sort of thing, when it was plainly rendered for us, and sort of that felt like a bit of a throwback in some places.
Yeah, I think Marty Pascoe maybe thought he was getting paid by the letter.
Yes.
So, because that whole thing with Sam's action sequence, you were absolutely right. The panels tell the story itself of Sam reconnecting the pipes and everything like that, for that steam pipe action scene, and you didn't need to have the dramatic captioning.
Yeah.
That was a bit excessive. But still, it was fun and dramatic, and Sam showing off his abilities, he's got super strength and he's not afraid and rolls up his sleeve, dives in.
We're kind of spoiled for choice on images to pick for the socials this week. I mean, there's a lot of really, really good stuff. I might have on Instagram, I might have to go for a few kind of like half-page sort of efforts or whatever. One thing we wanted to touch on very briefly is there was a couple of very topical sort of phrases, shall we say, pertinent to the sort of current political discourse, especially, I'm not going to name names, especially a kind of, shall we say, a vaguely controversial music act who played at Glastonbury a few weeks ago, and also a lot of the current political discourse. I mean, there's a reference to getting our country back, and then David Pearson says how he can't deport them. So that's obviously pertinent to a lot of the political discourse, and we'll observe that, and we should draw a line under it, because
the more things change,
yes, that works. That works very well. 50 years later, here we are. So there is a text page in this first issue which sets things up and gives us an idea of what was going on at DC when they were thinking to launch this series. And as we said, it's been a while since we've seen the Freedom Fighters. JLA 107, 108, as we repeated in our last episode last week, and those comics were published in the summer of 1973, so this is over 2 years later. It's not as if they've been turning up regularly in annual team-ups of the JLA like the JSA had been doing,
Yeah.
And it's not as if they had a long-established history as a published team like the Blackhawks had, but this is another sort of team book featuring Golden Age characters. So we're going to read you the text page now and see what it has to say. Now that you've met the crusading heroes of Earth X, it's time to step back into the past, not to explore their origins, which we mentioned in this issue, but to explain their comic book chronology.
The 6 stars of this mag began their careers with the Quality Comics Group in the early 40s. They prospered during World War II, but as the 40s ended, so did their success. Quality folded and sold most of their titles and characters to DC, including Blackhawk, Plastic Man, and GI Combat. But DC's own superstars weren't selling too well at that time, so the quality team was relegated to the back of the filing cabinet for 17 years.
Then came the Justice League of America, and when their annual team-ups with the Justice Society began to require guest stars for variation, the quality sextet was recast as the Freedom Fighters and brought back to life.
The Legend was recast also. Now the six were the surviving superheroes of an alternate world called Earth X, where the Nazi hordes had won World War II and slaughtered all the other American heroes. Surely this was the nicest and most ironic touch, for it was the end of World War II that really had killed the quality characters, and here World War II was being extended to keep them alive.
When a combined JLA-JSA team was accidentally catapulted into the Earth X universe, the Nazi mind-controlling devices were quickly smashed and Earth X freed. The Justice League and Justice Society members returned to their own worlds, and the Freedom Fighters sat down to get used to living in a free world again.
So it remained, until this issue, Freedom Fighters #1, and the existence of this issue prompts us to answer your next question. Why?
We already published the Justice League of America, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, and All-Star Comics, open brackets, the Super Squad. Why add another superhero group to the DC line, especially one whose members nobody knows?
Simple. Because no one knows the Freedom Fighters, they're new, different, and free to change and evolve. Our three established supergroups have been appearing around a total of 64 years, and that's a long time. Well enough to become well-established series and well-established story themes. The Freedom Fighters, on the other hand, are brand new, with only 2 previous appearances as a group, GLA 107 and 108 for the trivia conscious. The interrelationships of our characters are not yet defined, and there's plenty of time for their personalities to develop.
The innovation won't end with the storylines. This issue's art is a collaborative effort of Rick Estrada and Mike Royer, and it marks 2 firsts, their first team-up and the first DC use of a new art technique. Royer finishing the art from Estrada layouts, without ever touching the layouts themselves. Open brackets, Mike polishes the work by repenciling it on a light box and then adds the inks. Wow, okay. Next issue, Pablo Marcos will debut as penciler, which is also his first superhero pencil job.
Incentive enough to keep following the adventures of the Freedom Fighters? We hope so, even though we don't plan on stopping there. We're going to try very hard to make this a must-buy item on your list, and we hope you'll help us in the task by letting us know your feelings about the team. Our address is Freedom Fan Mail, National Periodical Publications, 75 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, New York, 10019. And we'll be using this space for your letters in the future.
And then we get a PS. If you enjoyed this issue, you might want to try some of the other new mags from Conway's Corner that are arriving at your newsstand this month. For example, this month's first issue special is Starman, the story of an incredible blue-skinned alien who's come to Earth to save it from his star-spawned race. That's due out shortly after this issue, and we hope we'll see you there. And listeners, as Pete and I record, I shall tell you that Steve and I recorded that issue of first issue special 2 nights ago. So look forward to that in the near future. So, jumping to issue 2, we're going to look at the letters page. Freedom Fan Mail, taking great care not to look at the last page of the story of issue 2. The first letter goes like this. Dear Jerry, Freedom Fighters has arrived, apparently untarnished by the fact that it is riding on the crest of the wave of superhero groups. If the first issue is any indication, Freedom Fighters has none of the expected similarities to other groups, and so I find tremendous potential for growth with the FF. With the Fantastic Four, what? What is it about 20th century Manhattan that draws superheroes like flies? This month alone, Karate Kid left the 30th century to live there, and now the FF leave Earth X for the Big Apple. This could provide us with some interesting moments. For instance, you mentioned Wonder Woman, also a New Yorker, in this issue. Have her do a guest shot and meet Uncle Sam. Maybe a romance could spring up. Their costumes look so glitzy together, and the Star Spangled Kid is much too young for Diana. The Phantom Lady development reminds me of the almost identical Black Canary development of JLA 76. Interesting. On their home Earths, both Phantom Lady and Black Canary were just lady crime fighters who had fancy names that didn't mean much, but here on Earth 1 they developed powers to match their names. Pasco did nicely with the first important effort. Giving the FF individual personalities was a nice move, and Uncle Sam serving as group meditator is terrific. If you keep the Freedom Fighters as an exclusive group, elaborate on their personalities, develop that fantastic headquarters, introduce some cast members, Mock Stuffy District Attorney Pearson is a good start. I've no doubt that DC's FF will be as popular as that other FF. And that's from Rob Rhodey, Columbia, Missouri.
Editorial response is, the superheroes have been streaming to New York because of all the headlines last year that said, New York needs aid to survive. And superheroes always go where they're needed. Unfortunately, none of them are going to solve the city's money problems, but they just might make it a better place to live. As for the Black Canary Phantom Lady phenomenon, we could attribute it to a dimension-crossing effect unique to Earth 1. Or we could be a bit more honest and say that in the Golden Age, when both characters were created, all you needed to succeed was a fancy name. But today's superstars are more reliant on their super abilities. So, since Phantom Lady was the only powerless member of the team, we increased her reader interest potential a bit.
That hadn't occurred to me, the Canary Phantom Lady similarity, but of course there is a story in the future that might impact how we think of Black Canary crossing from one dimension to the other, but that's quite a way away at this point.
Yes. Next letter says, Dear Jerry, congratulations on Freedom Fighters #1. It looks as though it will be one of the better titles. But why did you put out both All-Star Comics and Freedom Fighters, both bi-monthlies, on the same month schedule? It would have been better to have them scheduled in alternate months. The storyline was interesting, and I hope to see more of King Samson and the Silver Ghost in the future. But I have a few questions about the heroes themselves. Does Phantom Lady's black light come from her buckle or her bracelet? If only his hands are affected by the formula, why can't the human bomb become Ray Lincoln again, wearing gloves? Tune in again in 2 months for the answers to these and other questions. So says Tom Murphy from Newark, New Jersey.
Editorial response to that one is, taking your questions from the top, we, the editorial staff, don't make the final scheduling decisions. That's a production distribution matter that's handled by a higher echelon. The Phantom Lady's ray comes from her bracelet, but she might add a second projector in her buckle at any time. The bomb formula concentrated in his hands. It still exists throughout his body and makes him extremely explosive, open brackets, as mentioned in this issue, so we'll have to watch for that. And you'll keep getting answers as long as we keep getting questions. There are some more letters in issue 3, and the first one goes like this. Dear Jerry, 1976 is going to be known in one of two categories, either as the year of the super team, JLA, Legion, Freedom Fighters and JSA, or the year of the Golden Age heroes, JSA and Freedom Fighters members. Whichever it is, it's going to be a good year. I wish there was some more Legion stories we could do.
Yeah.
It's maddening, isn't it? I have extended Peter a challenge, listeners, in the style of our portmanteau episode, so we'll see how that goes.
Yes, I'm working on it.
Good. No pressure. Our correspondent continues. The main reason that I go for Golden Age revivals is that I'm too young to have caught those characters the first time around. Same, to be honest. Now the revivals capture the flavour of the old, but in present-day settings. Sometimes Marty's characterisations were perfect, and at other times they were the furthest thing from it. One such time was in page 8 when the Ray called Uncle Sam a senile old coot. Surely those heroes have some respect for each other. For a memory lesson, the recap of the fighters' powers was nice. Except for mentioning the art, I've covered about everything, and the art was stupendous. Estrada and Roy go together like Estrada and Wood. Magnificently. If you can keep it all at this level, you've got a fan for life, and that's from Mike White, Mackinac, Illinois. So that's quite a lot of letters this week from Steve's neck of the woods, so that's lovely.
Yes.
Editorial response to Mike reads,
We think we've reached an even higher pinnacle of quality, ouch, with this issue and our new regular team on FF. Talented old pros Ramona Fraden and Juan Canale have given life to Marty's Tale, and the best is yet to come. As for the Rays bickering, remember that the team didn't really form voluntarily. They were the survivors of the extended World War II on Earth X and had to band together. It's natural that now, with that pressure relieved, some cracks should begin to show in the alliance.
Interesting. Next letter goes like this.
Dear Jerry, while Estrada and Royer are certainly no Crandall or Fine, I enjoyed seeing the old quality crew come to life in Freedom Fighters. I hope you can improve in your initial artist selection though. I would like to see more of a fine line artist, at least on the pencils, and I don't mean Marcos. Actually, Ernie Chan did a nice job depicting the heroes on the cover, and an inside job would be in order. Or Mike Grell would probably do a good job, and after seeing Wally Wood's rendition of the JSA, I hope we see him trying the FF. unless part of his penciling is putting the ring on the right hand. Anyway.
Hmm.
The big thing seems to be for all the heroes to come to Earth-1, but it would have been more plausible for the freedom fighters to stay in their world and help it get back to its feet. This would have allowed you on Earth without any other superheroes, and the team would have been free to resume their old occupations. Well, in the contrived manner of comics of the past 3 decades, you brought them here and set them up in their own headquarters. Then you had them fight some contrived villains. Too bad. I had higher hopes. I disliked the script also.
Gosh.
But the only thing I think you handled well were the characters, particularly Uncle Sam. He kept his down-to-earth talk, and it's refreshing. If nothing else, Jer, I'm glad the freedom fighters are here. You see, I live across the street from the Con Ed plant they saved on page 3. As is, it took 4 hours to get the power restored. Without their aid, who knows? And that's from Harvey Sobel, New York, New York.
Editorial response reads, Ernie, Mike and Wally are all tied up with other commitments at the moment, but there's enough line work in this issue to satisfy anyone, Harvey. Yeah, issue 3 does look good. And as for the world shift, do you really think you would have enjoyed reading stories about a half-wrecked world where all the superheroes and supervillains except the freedom fighters had been killed? There aren't even interesting monsters on Earth X, as there are in Commandy's Earth After Disaster. Is that its official designation?
Sounds like it.
In the cosmos. Wow, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
In short, we think the world shift saved you from being as bored as the freedom fighters themselves were. That's quite a lot of correspondence there covering issue 1.
Mm-hmm. I've just had a flashback in reading that last letter to a time in the 90s where myself and a group of friends played a superhero role-playing game.
Right.
Loosely based on the DC Heroes game, not quite
Mm-hmm.
that. We used kind of like our own rules. And we had a team that ended up pretty much like the freedom fighters did, and I think it was a DA that gave them a headquarters and,
All right.
and set them all up within the first campaign that we did. But just the coincidence just struck me there.
Interesting.
I'd forgotten about that for decades. Yeah, that was hilarious. Sorry, just flashing back.
No, not at all. If I can wax lyrical about a former classmate for ages, that's fine. Listeners, did this issue give you any flashbacks to anyone you went to school with or anything that you did in your youth? You can write to us and let us know. Now, very quickly, a couple of weeks ago, when we did the first issue of the Black Hawk Revival, I asked, generally like I often do, some of our listeners what they were doing in October 1975, and we got a few responses. Alan Williams on Instagram said, October 1975, I was in 2nd grade. We took a field trip to a local bread company and another trip to an apple orchard.
What?
Those were the days. That sounds brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Friend of the show, Martin Gray, said, I don't remember October 1975 specifically, but I do remember buying this comic, now that's Black Hawk 244, I do remember buying this comic at the local newsagents and enjoying it lots. Excellent uniforms. Martin bought it off the stands. Goodness me.
Of course he did.
And hopefully he's on the mend. Hopefully his foot-leg situation is doing better than it has been. Our good pal, Ross Aitken, shared one of our posts on Instagram saying, just so you know, in 1975, I would have been laying on the floor in the family room reading my brother's comics, of course, which is what we thought you'd be doing, Roscoe.
Yeah. Except we thought it was going to be the back of a car. In your recollections, they usually are.
Was he not sitting? I've got something in my head. He was sitting in a pool when he was reading some of the GLA, JSA, Seven Soldier story, but I could be wrong. I'm sure Ross will let me know. So listeners, what were you doing when issue 1 of the Freedom Fighters came out? What are you doing? What are your memories of December 1975, if you have any? If you don't worry about it. But if you want to, send them in. This is where to send them to.
The earth2podcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure you follow us on social media, because we're putting up some lovely bonus material for this and indeed every episode. On Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2, and it is the number 2 for all of our socials.
It certainly is. If you're enjoying what we're doing, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcast and giving us a positive review, or consider sharing any of our posts on social media if you feel the need, if you feel the inclination, that'd be lovely. Or failing that, you go to our coffee page and buy Peter the price of a beverage as he edits down the aforementioned recording of first issue special between me and Steve, or indeed the recording of Freedom Fighters #1 featuring me and Peter and Steve and Christine. I'm sure Peter would be very grateful if you were to do so. Isn't that right, Peter?
Most certainly so. Yes, makes life worth living. On that bombshell.
Human bombshell. Which reminds me, very quickly, I have to say this because I've had the screenshot on my phone for years and I've forgotten every single time that we've mentioned him. There was an episode of the old Superman TV series called The Human Bomb.
Of course there was. That's right.
If we can get hold of it, maybe we'll review it for a further episode in future. Who can say? That may be worth doing. Just, I quickly had to remember that because every previous occasions, because he's been in a couple of episodes, I've gone, I forgot to mention, but this time I've remembered, which means I can delete that screenshot that's been on my phone for about 5 years. So, on that human bombshell,
I've been Peter.
and I've been David. We'll see you again soon for more Freedom Fighter action on
The
Earth 2 podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime. Presenting the
We got a nice round-edged flashback panel here. Oh, there's with the picture of Sam from the cigar. And there's with the picture of Sam on a cigar. I've seen it again.
Cigar.
The cigar band. They supported menswear, you know.
They did indeed, yeah.
Right, hang on. Deep breaths. I'm in danger of not taking this seriously. How can the human know? The human knows. How can the human?
What about the human canoe?
Yes.